Today's shir. Means like this. We talked about Beinanim. And there's a Beinani who's essentially lamenting how come he's not a tzaddik. So Alter Rebbe told him a bunch of stuff. Amongst them was the idea that Hashem enjoys the skafia. In fact, he enjoys the skafia of a Beinani more than he enjoys this hapchav tzaddikim. Oh, he got an email. So, he spoke about a skafia, and he said, Hashem has two different types of pleasures. A Beinani is not half a tzaddik. A Beinani is not an unfinished tzaddik. A Beinani is a complete avoided of a skafia. And Hashem gets nachas from it, like the example of sweet foods versus bitter and sharp foods that are made pleasant, that they're also very wonderful. So the Alter Rebbe now finishes the Perek with one last point, and that is that there is even the same nachas ruach from what's called the skafia b'dvarim hamutarim. Not only a skafia against Averis, there's a skafia in dvarim hamutarim. In other words, it's kosher, and you prave skafia, it has the same effect of giving Hashem nachas ruach. And the Alter Rebbe is going to enumerate 4 milas of a skafia. 4 milas of a person who wants to eat a piece of cake and doesn't eat it, or wants to say a delicious piece of lashon hara, with stam narishkeiten, which lashon hara is an aveda, but stam to speak dvarim hatem doesn't say it. 4 milas that Hashem has from a skafia, even if it's not about aveda, it's poshet dvarim hamutarim. Alafilu b'dvarim hamutarim legamri, things which are entirely permitted. Kol ma, anything sha'adam zeveyach yitzei, that he slaughters the yetzer hara. In other words, yankele dvarim hamutarim, that the yetzer hara is involved. If the Yetzer Hara is not involved in that Vavar HaMutar, it's okay. But if the Yetzer Hara is involved in the Vavar HaMutar, there's an inyan from Miskafia. Afilu Shah Kali, even for a small hour. Mischaven, and his kavona is La'achafil Seter Achra, to bend Seter Achra, Shebachol smaller, which is in the left side of his heart. Kigoin, for example, Shechafetz, Yankee, Hebrew, you know, that he desires. He doesn't desire, it's okay. He desires. You want to eat. You postpone your meal for an hour or even less. During those minutes you study Torah. The Gemara says that the 4th hour, which is for us 10 o'clock in the morning, is the time for most people's eating. And meet at midday. Like the Alter Rebbe, why did Talmidei Chacham eat 2 hours later? They fasted. They hungered themselves. They made themselves hungry for 2 hours. Just for the intent of having a skafia. Though after they finished eating, they continued learning the whole day. They said, I'm going to learn before eating. I'm going to learn after eating. Let me learn a little bit more before. You know, when I was yeshiva bacher, your age, a little younger, I was in Los Angeles, and we had shluchim. And one of the shluchim came over to me with this piece of Tanya and says, what does this mean? Because we used to have, when Seder ended, it was always a meal. After davening was breakfast, after Seder was lunch. As soon as we were able to read, we used to dash down to the dining room to be first one in line. We used to chap messen. So he shows me. And then he showed me one of the shluchim. Today is a big mashpia. One of the shluchim, one of our Alter Rebbe, he was a big masmid and a lamdan. He was a bal niglet. He had good learning. And when the zal would clear out to go to lunch, he would take out a Tanya and learn. Mamish 5-6 minutes. And he would come into the dining room when the line finished. So instead of standing in line waiting for food, he would sit and learn Tanya. Breakfast, lunch, supper. And he did it with such an edelkeit. If someone, one of his chavedim showed me, one of the other shluchim pointed out, look, you see, everyone goes to eat and he stands in. Mamash is written here, the death is a skafia. Push it. There's going to be a line for lunch. And of course, sometimes by the time he got to the counter, the best gericht, no, there was always food, but maybe there was no more chicken or there was no more. Sometimes the food that people want the most was missing, but he ate. He didn't go hungry. A simple thing. You finish davening, learn Tanya 1 minute, then go eat. It's kavaldik skafia. Unbelievable. Says the Rebbe, the chain, moreover, in Beilim Piv, you keep your mouth closed. From speaking words, that your heart desires very much to speak them in to matters of this world. Of course, lashon hara is osur, nivel peh is osur. It says someplace else, litzanis is osur, it's klippus at meis. But the stam dvarim, litzanis means to make a joke, to be cynical. I don't know. But if a person stam speaks gossip, you heard they're building a building. I can't believe you, I can't believe it, I saw this. Stop speaking about Inyanim, and you want to speak, you don't speak them, even though it's totally mutter, but it's never Shabbamis, it gives the Eibush Tagavaldik and Nachas Ruach. V'chein be'irurei machshavti al derech the thoughts in the thought process of the person. Afilu ma'at miz'ed, even in the smallest way. And again, we're not speaking about thinking Averis, as it goes without saying. We're speaking about thinking Dvarim HaMutarim. Whatever the case is, to think, whatever. And you don't do it. Mitad eskafye. It gives the Eibush Ta'am, made in the Kenachas Ruach. And the Alter Rebbe now enumerates 4 miles of iskafye by Dvarim HaMutarim. Number 1, the iskafye sitrachal latata. That when a person bends klipa down here in his own life, is stalik. It causes for a gili bebechinas reimamus, an expansion of divine light. Yikara the kuchabricha, the glory of Hashem, ugudushasi in His holiness. La'ela above harbe a lot. That's the first mile. The Alter Rebbe said already in yesterday's shiur, about Dvarim HaMutarim, that a skafia gives Hashem more nachas than his hapcha. 2 days ago shiur, and that the skafia of a benyani causes a gili of seif of kol almin, which is higher than the hapcha of tzaddikim. So when you do a skafia by Dvarim HaMutarim, it's also mistalik, a gili of seif of kol almin, yikad kucha b'nichel. That's number 1. Number 2, umekedusha zu, and because you, through your iskafia, created this holiness lamayla, nimshachas kedusha al yein alav, it brings down a supernal holiness on the man, lamata down here in this world, l'sayei, to help him see you, and avotzum, a great and an intense help, la'avedasa yizbarech, in the service of the Eibishter. The Gemara says, Adam mekadesh atzmei ma'ad lamata. A person sanctifies himself a little bit down here, and by the way, sanctification means iskafia. He sanctified a lot above. It says in Rishayim, and you'll see in a moment clear that the idea, a person doesn't have to be holy, a person has to be frum. Holy is a higher standard. So holiness is a skafia. V'yitzam means to say, even though this is kosher, I want to be holy, so I'm not going to eat it. Even though this is permitted, I'm going to be holy and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to think it, and so forth. So being holy is skafia. When you make yourself holy a drop, a holiness comes down from above and push it, makes it easier for you to do Torah and mitzvahs. So you have 2 miles. The first mile of skafia by Dvarim HaMutarim is that a stalik kuchabricha dekula almond is a great gil of seif of kol almin in the world. Number 2, so the first thing is the stalkus, it brings a gil alkus into the world. Number 2, the kedusha comes down on you, hopes of Davish, and then there's a third in you. Levad, you should know, this is besides Masha Makayim mitzvah sasei shel Torah. The Alter Rebbe paskins here that it's a mitzvah sasei deiraisa to prave iskafia. Like it says, v'hiskadishtem v'gemer, a person has to make himself holy. Kishem mekadesh atzmei b'mutar lei. When a person sanctifies himself about things that are permitted. Upidish v'hiskadishtem. What is the translation of the word v'hiskadishtem? Upirush v'hiskadishtem. The translation of make yourself holy should tasu atzmechem kedoshim. Force yourself to be holy. Claim what this means. Even though Shabbat said in truth, you're not holy, you're not separate. It's in all of its power and all of its strength. Like we were born, small on the left side of the heart. You're bending your Yitzhahara. You're forcing yourself to be holy. Says the Alter Rebbe, that's good. Now, I'll explain it to you by in minutes. There's a famous Ramban in the beginning of Pashas Kadesh. That the Ramban says that there's a mitzvah in the Torah, Kadeshim Tiyu. Kadeshim Tiyu doesn't mean be frum. Kadeshim means be holy. And the Ramban translates, what does it mean holy? That even when it comes to permitted things, there's a beautiful way to do it, there's a Yiddish way to do it, there's a Groba Goyish way to do it. And the famous Ramban says, this is one of the most famous Rambans of all, that there's a concept called novel Bereshus HaTorah. He's a Talmud Chacham. He knows every heter. He knows every excuse, every kula, and he exploits it. So he's Bereshus HaTorah, doesn't do a single aved, he's very frum, and Torah calls him a menuvel, despicable, because there's no holiness. Ramban says Kadeshim Tiyu, there's a mandate to be holy. Holy means that even Dvarim HaMutarim, you should be holiness. The way you eat, it's permitted. You should see the chiluk of Yid and Agoy in eating. When Azei veit and Elazach, he gives a dogma from a person who's mashtin in Tefillin Shal Yad. Al pi halacha, you're allowed to go into the bathroom with Tefillin Shal Yad because it's covered. Okay, there's a heter, but you're grub yung. So the Ramban speaks about this idea of Kedoshim Tihiyu. The Ramban says in Pirush al Chumash, it's not one of the Yag mitzvahs. In Pirush al Chumash, that there's a mitzvah, there's an idea of it's called iskafia. Even in permitted things, there should be holiness. Now, as you guys know, there's Tayag mitzvahs. As I said in the Gemara, which of the Tayag mitzvahs? There's about 12 opinions. The Alter Rebbe brings here an opinion, and the Alter Rebbe is paskening that iskafia is one of the Tayag mitzvahs. Mitzvah Shel Teira. Problem is, as he just asked, who holds that? Which one of the Rishonim holds that? And the answer is none of them. It's a Sefer Charedim. Charedim was a Talmud of the Ari. Parenthesis. Agav. There are many Yeshitas in Sefer HaMitzvahs, but you should know that there's a Sefer HaMitzvahs in Zohar. Does anybody know what is the name of Sefer HaMitzvahs in Zohar? What's it called? Raya Mehemna. Raya Mehemna, in other words, the Chelek of Zohar said by Moshe Rabbeinu was Poshet and enumeration of mitzvahs. But his list includes so many Derabbanans. He includes Brachas and Kiddush and Halal, all the Rabbanans. Zohar is a whole cheshbon of mitzvahs. Charedim was a Makobel, and he wrote a Sefer. He doesn't have all Tayag mitzvahs, but he enumerates several hundred mitzvahs. And the Charedim paskins that Eskafi is a Deiraisa. And the Rebbe Rashab in Kuntas Amayim brings it down, but over there it says Sefer HaChinuch. But it's a mistake. It shouldn't say Sefer HaChinuch. It should say Sefer Ches apostrophe. And the Rebbe writes in the back of the book that the Rebbe Rashab wrote Sefer Ches, and the Bocher HaZetzer wrote Chinuch, because he didn't think it's Charedim, and he's wrong. It's supposed to be Charedim. The Alter Rebbe paskins here like the Charedim. Chotcha feel that the Rishonim don't hold like this. But the Rebbe paskins that it's a mitzvah Shel Teira v'Iskafia. And what does it mean? Act holy even though you aren't. That's like V'Iskadishtim. Act holy even though you aren't. So we have so far 3 milas. Iskafia b'dvarim otarim. Number 1, it causes a great gili alakus. Number 2, it's mekachin eisa habim omayla. Hashem helps you so they be better. Number 3, it's poshel am mitzvah say deiraisa. And number 4, v'yisam kadeshim. If you act holy like the Alter Rebbe, you'll become holy. Klaima, this means that when you act holy, you prave iskafia, even though you want to eat the food, you don't eat it. Seifei li is kadosh and moved to b'yemes, my sitteracha. A person can eventually become truly a holy and removed from klipa, because Hashem helps us from above, like we said before in the second mile. And he's assisted legarsha to divorce it melibi from his heart, ma'at little by little. Here comes a chiddush nifla. The Alter Rebbe says that if you act holy, you will become holy. Now, when I taught this to my Talmidim the first time, I said, I mean to say that the Alter Rebbe is saying here again this idea that he said in Sef Perek Yudaled that a beini could become a tzaddik. The Rebbe has a footnote where he says you could become a tzaddik in one prat. Sefer Lias Kodesh removed, but it doesn't mean you have no Yetzer Hara. It means this Yetzer Hara goes away. If you like cake and you prave iskafia in cake, it's possible you should lose your geschmack in it completely. So 4 miles in iskafia and dvarim otarim. Number 1 is talak halu k'shbeicha b'kol u'alma. Number 2, mekachin is a habim mile. Number 3, it's a post of mitzvah say deiraisa, say hal de charedim, and the Alter Rebbe paskin like this charedim. You have to look in the Arutz V'Tziyun in the back in Kuntas Amayim, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. It's not chinuch, no. Look in the back of Kuntas Amayim, the Arutz V'Tziyunim, the Rebbe's note. It's charedim. And number 4, you could retouch a madrega that you have no shaychus to that taiva anymore. You could lose a geschmack and a taiva completely.